आयोजन के ही क्रम में हम एक व्याख्यान का आयोजन कर रहे हैं और इसमें हमने मुख्य अतिथि के तौर पर श्री मुकेश कुमार जी जो निदेशक हैं केंद्रीय सतर्कता आयोग के, उन्हें आमंत्रित किया है। सर, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। श्री मुकेश कुमार उच्च शिक्षा प्राप्त हैं। उन्होंने इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और इंस्ट्रूमेंटेशन इंजीनियरिंग की है। MBA उन्होंने ह्यूमन रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट में किया है और उन्होंने कानून की पढ़ाई LLB भी किया है। वे केंद्रीय सतर्कता आयोग का कार्य 4 वर्षों से देख रहे हैं, जिसमें उन्होंने मानव संसाधन विकास मंत्रालय, वाटर रिसोर्सेज, कंज्यूमर अफेयर्स, अर्थ साइंसेज मंत्रालय और उनके स्वायत्त संगठनों की सतर्कता संबंधी मामलों में अपना बहुमूल्य योगदान दिया है। और सर पार्ट टाइम प्रोफेशनल फॉर डिपार्टमेंटल इंक्वायरीज के रूप में भी कार्य कर रहे हैं। हम सर का औपचारिक स्वागत करने का निवेदन करते हैं और मैं इस क्रम में हमारे अध्यक्ष महोदय से निवेदन करती हूँ कि वे मुख्य अतिथि महोदय को उनके और मोमेंटो लेकर उनका स्वागत करें। अब मैं स्वागत भाषण के लिए हमारे निदेशक विद्यार्थी सहायता सेवाएं श्री विजया कुमार जी को आमंत्रित करती हूँ। ये मुख्य सतर्कता अधिकारी का कार्यभार भी संभाल रहे हैं। सर,
A very good evening to all of you. Honorable Chairman Sir, Professor C.V. Sharma ji, Chief Guest of the Day, Shri Mukesh Kumar, Director CVC, Secretary Shri Anjani Kumar ji, Director Evaluation Shri Venkateshwar ji, Director Vocational Education Dr. Bagal ji, Senior Officers, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. We are celebrating this day in culmination of Vigilance Awareness Week, which was started on 28th October. And last 1 week, we had activities. We tried our best to focus the theme, integrity, a way of life. So आज हमारा कल्मिनेशन डे है, इसलिए एक छोटा सा कार्यक्रम हम लोग ने बनाया. At the outset, I would like to welcome our Honorable Chairman, who always guide us, help us, tell us what to do, how to do. So this entire program was discussed with him, and whatever guidance we could get it from sir, we tried our best to make it happen. So my warm welcome to Chairman sir to this function. I profoundly welcome Shri Mukesh Kumar ji, Director CBC. I met him 10 days back. I made a request to him that he should come and give a lecture on our theme area. When I was talking to him, he was getting so many phone calls from different organizations asking him to come to their program like CBSE, ETSIL and other organizations. Even then, he happily agreed our invitation and he is with us today to deliver a short lecture on the theme. So we welcome you also, sir, to this organization. My special welcome to our secretary, directors and all senior officers, colleagues and friends. As you all aware that integrity is very important to every individual. Rather, it is life for all of us. So probably sir will be able to throw some light on this area we may go with lot of inputs about this topic, integrity, a way of life. I welcome every one of you for this function. I hope you all will enjoy it. Thank you so much.
से निवेदन भी हूँ कि वे भी अपने विचार दें और हमें संदेश दें।
धन्यवाद। मुकेश कुमार जी, निदेशक सीवीसी, अध्यक्ष महोदय, साथी डायरेक्टर्स और सब एनआईओ के साथियों, अब ये सब्जेक्ट जो है सीवीसी का, इंटीग्रिटी अ वे ऑफ लाइफ, ईमानदारी एक जीवन शैली, आज हम लोग इस चीज़ पे चर्चा कर रहे हैं। इसको अगर देखें तो हम लोग अपना अगर इतिहास देखें, पीछे मुड़ के देखें, तो ये कहीं ना कहीं हम लोगों के कल्चर से जुड़ा हुआ है। हमेशा अगर महाभारत पढ़ते हैं तो जो वचन जिसने दिया उसको निभाना है, उस वचन, प्राण जाए पर वचन न जाए। या अगर हम राजा हरिश्चंद्र को देखते हैं, वो भी एक सच्चाई की मिसाल थे। तो ये सब चीज़ें तो कहीं ना कहीं हम लोगों के संग जुड़ी हुई हैं। आज हम लोगों को इस पर फिर से विचार करना पड़ रहा है कि इसमें किस तरह से हमें करना चाहिए। अगर इसको देखें हम लोग, ईमानदारी है क्या? ईमानदारी दो तरीके से देख सकते हैं, एक आप अपने मन के हिसाब से, एक अपने समाज के हिसाब से। आप जो कुछ भी काम करते हैं, अगर आपका दिल कहता है, का दिल गवारा करता है कि ये काम कर रहे हैं, आपको अच्छा लग रहा है, वो ईमानदारी है। मन से सच्चाई, अपने मन में सच्चाई है। और जो आप काम कर रहे हैं, जो बाकी लोगों को सबको पसंद है, सब लोग उसको एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, वो भी एक ईमानदारी की बात है। जो सब लोगों को पसंद आता है, यही तो एक ईमानदारी है। तो आज अगर इसको सीवीसी के टर्म्स में खाली देखें तो एक अलग चीज़ है कि करप्शन एक पार्ट है उसका, ईमानदारी का। ओवरऑल अगर आप देखें तो हर चीज़ में, आप एनआईओएस में काम करते हैं तो ईमानदारी क्या है? ईमानदारी आपकी ये है कि समय पे आएँ। अगर समय पे नहीं आ रहे हैं तो कहीं ना कहीं आप अपने जॉब के संग में ईमानदारी नहीं रख रहे। आप अपने समय पे आ जा रहे हैं, लेकिन आप अपने सीट पे नहीं जाके कैंटीन में चले गए। आपका काम तो यह है सीट पे बैठ के अपना काम करना, ये भी एक है। तो हर जगह पे आप अगर देखें, अलग अलग मापदंड हैं, और उस मापदंड को समझने का कार्य भी आप खुद ही करते हैं कि आपको मन से, अगर आपको अच्छा लगता है कि जैसे अपने ड्यूटी पे आए, अपने पूरा काम करा और घर गए, मन में आपको अच्छा लगा कि आज मैंने अपना काम अच्छे से किया, ये सबसे बड़ी चीज़ है। परिवार में आप घर गए, परिवार के प्रति आप लोगों की काफ़ी अपेक्षाएं हैं, उनको भी निर्वाह करना है कि घर में कुछ काम कराना है, बच्चों को देखना है, वाइफ है, हस्बैंड है, सबको करना है। ये सारी एक जो परंपरा, ये सारी चीज़ें अगर आप देखिए तो पूरा ईमानदारी। तो इस हिसाब से ईमानदारी की जो जीवन शैली है, हर एस्पेक्ट ऑफ लाइफ आपकी इसको एनकम्पेस करती है। उस हिसाब से अगर आप देखिए तो अल्टीमेटली यही सोचिए कि जो आपको मन में अच्छा लगता है, मन गवारा करता है, उस हिसाब से करिए। खाली दिमाग से मत चलिए, अपने हृदय की बात सुनिए और उससे आपको करना है। आई थिंक इतना मेरा बहुत है, बाकी सारे सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट हैं सीवीसी साहब, तो थैंक यू।
धन्यवाद सर। ईमानदारी जीवन के हर पहलू में हमारे साथ विद्यमान है। वक्त है हम इसे समझें और अपने जीवन के हर काम में अपना आकलन करें कि कहाँ हम पीछे हैं और कहाँ हम इस आदत को और बेहतर करें। अब मैं आमंत्रित करती हूँ इस समारोह के मुख्य अतिथि श्री मुकेश कुमार जी को। वे जिस विषय पर अपना व्याख्यान प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं वह है ईमानदारी जीवन शैली, इंटीग्रिटी अ वे ऑफ लाइफ।
Professor C.B. Sharma, Chairman NIUS, Sri Anjani Kumar, Sri Vijay Kumar, CEO, Dr. Pagal, Sri Venkateshwara, all officers and staff of NIUS. Very good evening. I am feeling honored to be among you because you are playing very important role in development of our society and country. But education is such a basic need that it makes an animal, human being which is an animal, without education it is animal. So after giving education you make him human being. So it is basic need of any human being to become a human being. And you are shaping the future of the country. NIUS particularly is providing education to those students who are otherwise unable to afford education in other institutions, or because of any reason they are not able to attend proper schools. To them also you are providing opportunities to gain education which they deserve for. That's why your role is extremely important for the country. Coming to today's occasion, today we have assembled here on the concluding session of Vigilance Awareness Week. Most of you have participated in various activities and you have also made awareness among general public at large, and that is our basic aim also. Vigilance Awareness Week, Central Vigilance Commission actually started this observing Vigilance Awareness Week by taking this initiative in year 2000, and since then every year it is observed in the week in which 31st October falls, which is birth anniversary of Sardar Patel, whose life is considered an example of probity. So just yesterday only we celebrated his 144th anniversary. So the basic aim of observance of Vigilance Awareness Week is to achieve the goals of promoting integrity, transparency and accountability in public life. And Commission lays its emphasis on generation of awareness among the public as a more effective and sustainable means of fighting corruption. Observance of Vigilance Awareness Week creates an awareness among government departments, various institutions, and the people, the general public at large. Because we are not, we don't want to be restricted only to government departments or government agencies. We are encouraging participation of all the citizens of the country. Every citizen of the country is affected by corruption, so we expect that everyone should play a role in fighting against corruption, because no single entity or single agency can fight corruption. But why it is required? Why Vigilance Awareness Week, or why vigilance is required? As we are aware, it is because of prevalence of menace of corruption in our society. If I ask, everybody will be agreeing that they have experienced the corruption in one way or other. So all of us actually have seen the bad effects of corruption in our life. Rarely somebody will say that he is not aware about corruption. If he is saying that, probably he is keeping a blind eye from the society and what is happening in the society. So it's so much prevalence of corruption there that all of us are affected in one way or other. And it is perhaps corruption has been since ages, perhaps from the day when we came on the earth, corruption also came along with us. And it is also omnipresent, it is present everywhere in all parts of the world. But developing countries are more affected than the developed world. But of course, degree of corruption varies from one country to other. Then we all talk about corruption, we all understand what corruption is. But if I ask, what is corruption? What is the definition of corruption? Then if I start asking from anyone, then he will define corruption one way, in one sentence, one way or two sentences. In his own words, he will define the corruption. And there will not be any identical definition from all of us. And if we see, they are not, everyone of us will be correct in defining corruption, because it is available in so many forms that it is very difficult to enlist all those forms. So in one or two sentences, it in fact cannot be defined. So that's why there is no universally acceptable definition of corruption. So if people have made attempts to define corruption, like Transparency International and World Bank, they define the corruption like World Bank has said that the corruption is the abuse of public power, public office for private gains. And according to Transparency International, the abuse of entrusted power for private gain is corruption. So the key word is abuse of power, abuse of official power, abuse of public power, and for what? For private gain. But these keywords are not restrictive. Like abuse of power, it is also in various forms, which again cannot be enlisted. Similarly, private gain. Private gain doesn't mean gain for my personal gain. It may be gain of someone known to me. It may be gain for some of my family members, and again also it varies. Like it may be financial gain, it may be some gain in abstract form, which is not visible. So it can be anything. It may be some work for you, some job for you, some material for you, so anything. So that's why it is very difficult to define corruption. But as I am a student of engineering, and like my friends, like Sri Anjani Kumar is also engineer. So we better understand that. Some of you maybe might have studied science and mathematics. We easily understand if there is some simple equation. So one Professor Robert Klitgaard, he's a professor of public policy and he has worked with various universities in USA. He gave simple equation to define corruption to some extent. He said that monopoly power plus discretion minus accountability is equal to corruption. Means that if there is more monopoly power with any authority, any official, and there is a lot of discretion with that official, corruption is likely to be increased. In that organization where there is a lot of monopoly, there is a lot of discretion, and certainly there are chances that there will be corruption in that organization. And minus accountability, so less accountability. So if there is less accountability, more monopoly, more discretion, then corruption, the increase of corruption is likely. So it also gives solution also, like how to reduce corruption. So if you reduce monopoly, you reduce discretion, corruption will be less. Or further to lessen corruption, you increase the accountability. So here lies solution to some extent. Reduce monopoly, reduce discretion and increase accountability. Because corruption is characterized by lack of transparency and accountability. So increase the transparency and accountability, you will, to some extent, you will address the problem of corruption in any organization. This is not the only thing. We have to do a lot of other things also, but to some extent, of course, it will at least reduce corruption. But why corruption? Why it is bad? It may be good also. Some people may say it is good also. How it can be good? Even you will be surprised to know that there have been some studies that corruption is good. How it is good? So that means we should increase the corruption then. You may argue that, then why you are talking about transparency and reduction in corruption? It is good and let it grow. It is good. How it is good? Like in an efficient system which doesn't work. See, like any machine which is rusted, if you grease it, it will start moving smoothly. So in an efficient system, if the grease of bribe is given, then it starts working. So efficiency is increased in that organization. For example, take any example like registering a complaint with police. It is their job to register FIR or complaint if something is reported. And the person who is responsible for registering the complaint is not doing his work. And if you bribe him, he'll register the complaint. In that sense, his efficiency is increased. So corruption is good in that sense. But then why it should not be encouraged? Because if somebody is corrupt, somebody is earning money in wrong manner, or some unlawful money is being earned, then actually he is stealing share of someone else. He is illegally taking share of someone else. Somebody, so it may be that I am gaining, but I am gaining on the cost of 10 persons or 15 persons or 100 persons, 100 citizens of the country. So I am having very good effect on me, but I am actually making others to suffer, and that portion is bigger than me. And it is affecting whole society, whole country. So positive effects may be on group of persons, but it is having negative effect on larger portion of the country. That's why it is not good. It cannot be said that corruption is good. So this argument is not correct. In fact, the study, some people have studied, but there have been counter studies also, and corruption cannot be glorified. It cannot be said that it is good. So we have to tackle this issue very, very seriously and in a very effective manner. And then what cost in fact we are paying? There is no doubt that it adversely affects the development of any country and growth of any economy. And not only economy, but as such human development. So it's like one estimate of World Bank in 2017. They said that because of corruption, 1.5 to 2 trillion dollars are lost in corruption. It is going in wrong hands, and it is not reaching to the targeted population. And this amount, 1.5 to 2 trillion dollars, is equal to almost 2% of world's GDP. And do you know that what is the size of Indian economy? We are considered one of the largest economy of the world. Like we are probably fifth or sixth economy of the world. And our size is $2.936 trillion. It is less than $3 trillion as on today, and government has targeted to achieve $5 trillion economy in next 2-3 years by 2022 or so. And the size of corruption is $2 trillion. So when that means the corruption size itself, it is equal to one of the biggest economy of the world. So you can imagine what is the size of corruption and what will be its effect on every one of us. So if we talk of only India, then one Professor Vivek Devara, very famous personality, and he is also playing a very important role in present government. Probably he was in advisory council, economic advisory council of Prime Minister. He, along with one Sri Lavish Bhandari, in a book called Corruption in India, the DNA and RNA, he estimated that about rupees 921 billion is lost, it is pocketed by corrupt officers in India, which is 1.26% of Indian GDP. Earlier there were estimates by World Bank and IMF, they were saying that it is 0.5% or so of GDP which is lost in the corruption. But this figure is it is much more than that. It is 1.26% of GDP. So we can actually estimate its ill effect. And even if you see towards Transparency International's data, and they every year they conduct surveys. In 2018, as per 2018 data, the position of India in Corruption Perception Index is 78th. Out of 180 countries, we are at 78th position, and the average score in the scale of 100 is 43, and our score is 41. So we are even below average in terms of corruption. So as the score is more than, there is less corruption. It is, so we are below even 50%. So it is true that it hinders our economic growth, it hinders investment, and it affects human development adversely, and it limits the access to basic services. And since it limits the access to basic services, the poorest person of the society, the persons at lowest state of the society, at the bottom of the pyramid, they are worst affected. It is because in corrupt system, the resourceful persons can get the advantage of corrupt organizations, corrupt persons. But what to do for those who are not even able to get a meal for quenching their basic needs, for even having proper nutritious food or even clean water. So such persons, think for those persons. In fact, corruption affects the basic, in democratic setup, corruption weakens the system. It weakens the organizations, and weak organizations, weak agencies cannot fight corruption. So it will result in increase in corruption. So it is a vicious circle. We have to address these issues. It is therefore, in a nutshell, it can be said that corruption is anti-poor, it is anti-investment, it is anti-growth, anti-investment, and of course it is inequitable, and therefore it is cruel. Then what to do? We have to fight against that. There is no doubt that we have to fight. And one way is fighting is to remain vigilant, to remain watchful, to remain alert, and keep a keen watch on those who are involved in and who can be danger to our society through corruption. And to fight corruption, we need some institutional setup, and for that purpose only Central Vigilance Commission was set up. It has its origin in Santhanam Committee report, which was constituted after many scams were reported post-independence. So the committee gave many recommendations, and one being establishment of Central Vigilance Commission. It was established in 1964 by a resolution of the government, and later after a lot of development on the direction of Supreme Court, statutory status was given, and subsequently in 2003 the act was passed, that is called Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003. So the present commission is governed by Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003. It is now multi-member body, 3-member commission is there, headed by Central Vigilance Commissioner and 2 Vigilance Commissioners. And they are appointed by a committee headed by Prime Minister and leader of opposition in Lok Sabha being other member. Now what we do? Commission is okay, but what are our role? What we do? We are apex body to act in to handle the anti-corruption activities, but mainly our functions, if I talk of functions, then mainly our function is to entertain the complaint, to receive the complaints and to direct an inquiry and investigation on those complaints, and advisory function to the government. So section 81D deals with the, in 81C we receive the references from government for advice, or 81D, in 81D we are empowered, under 81D we are empowered to receive complaints from all the sources. And the source of complaints may be anybody, from general public, common citizen, to employee of your organization, and anyone, any stakeholder. So they can make the complaint to commission, and we handle those complaints as per our complaint handling policy. Just to let you know that we do not entertain any anonymous or pseudonymous complaints. So complaints should be made with your name and designation, name and address, so that we can contact you for further information if required. And CVC is also designated authority to receive complaints under PDP resolution, that is Public Interest Disclosure and Protection of Informer Resolution of 2004, which has its origin in, everybody may be aware, murder of Sri Satyendra Dubey, one young engineer and NHAI who raised the issue of corruption in that organization, but he paid the price by losing his life. So thereafter, after a lot of hue and cry, and of course with the intervention of Supreme Court, government came out with this resolution where the identity of the complainant is not revealed to the investigating agency or anyone else. And this protects you so that you are not harassed by the by higher ups of your organization if you are making complaint against your senior officers or anyone who is a very influential in the society. For that purpose, you have to, complaint has to be made in sealed cover, superscribing it, the complaint under PDP resolution. But there also you have to mention your name and address. But when we send the complaint, then we mask your identity. In case the identity is revealed, then we also direct the concerned authorities to provide security, safety and security to that concerned person if he is having any threat to his life and liberty. So after the analyzing complaint, we send the complaint to either CBI if there is any criminal angle and it is appearing to be a big scam. Then we send it to CBI and CBI investigate, or in case it is seen that if the allegation pertains to violation of certain rules and not involving a big scam, then we send it to CBO concerned and they carry out investigation, and as per their report, suppose the CBI recommend either prosecution or departmental action, and CBO generally recommend departmental actions. In case CBO also finds that there is some big scam or there is some big misconduct which requires investigation from criminal angle, then again the matter can be referred to CBI or even local police. So after that, our advisory function starts. CVO or CVI submits report to CVC, and then we, in case of prosecution sanction, if the prosecution sanction is to be issued, because you cannot be prosecuted, a public servant cannot be prosecuted without the sanction from the competent authority, and the competent authority is authority who is competent to remove you from the service. So this protection is available to you, that no one can be subject to prosecution just on the whims of anyone, even on the basis of findings of any investigating agency. So prosecution sanction, if the prosecution sanction is to be issued in the name of President, then advice of CVC is required. And in other cases, suppose in case prosecution is to be, in your case, there may be certain category of officials against whom prosecution is to be issued by your chairman or maybe your board. Then in such cases, if they are not agreeing with the investigating agency, it may be investigating agency, maybe police or CBI, and if they are not agreeing, then it is also mandatory to seek advice of the CVC. And after that also, after advice, if the competent authority is not agreeing with the advice of CVC too, then the matter should be referred to DOPT for final resolution. But ultimate authority lies, of course, with the competent authority. Normally, our advice is complied with. Other may be departmental action. For that purpose, certain category, in case of certain category of officers which are specified in subsection 2 of section 8 of CVC Act, like All India Services, Group A, Central Civil Services and many other services. The advice of CVC is mandatory for initiation of any disciplinary action. So in that case, we examine the case and then we tender our advice, and as per advice, let's say the charge sheet is given to the concerned officer, inquiry is conducted, and thereafter the disciplinary authority takes a view. They may take the view for imposition of penalty or exoneration or anything like issuance of warning, etc. Then again advice is taken, that is called second stage advice, but it is subject to certain exceptions, like if the penalty to be imposed, the proposed penalty is in line with first stage advice, like if you initiated major penalty proceedings and that disciplinary authority takes a view to impose major penalty only, then there is no need to refer the matter for second stage advice. Or in certain cases when UPSC is to be consulted, like in case of group A officers which who are appointed through UPSC, if UPSC to be consulted before imposition of penalty, then the matter should be referred to UPSC and not to CVC. This is just to avoid any difference of opinion between two statutory bodies. And after that, the decision is taken by the disciplinary authority either to impose the penalty or to exonerate, as the case may be. So this is all about taking action, because you committed some, you are involved in some misconduct, so you have to face the music, a penalty is imposed on you, and the matter is closed. But why it had happened? CVO is not only required to see that penalty is imposed on the person who has committed something wrong, he is involved in some misconduct, but there is a role of CVO also to improve the system, so that suppose again somebody did something wrong on that seat, again second person is coming on that seat and he is also doing the same thing. So CVO has very important, CVO and of course head of the organization has very important role to see, to analyze why it has happened in fact. Whether there was any flaw in your system, whether there are rules which actually allows lot of discretion or monopoly, as I said. So you have to analyze your rules, your internal procedures very thoroughly, so as to avoid recurrence of such misconduct again by same person or by his successors. And that is continuous process. So this is called your preventive vigilance. We are preventing the same thing to happen And now we are also focusing on participative vigilance. And like observance of vigilance awareness, it is participative. You all are participating, and even persons sitting outside, common citizen, they are participating. And main purpose of Vigilance Awareness Week is to increase participation. Everybody should participate in it. And all over the country, various activities are conducted, like with the help of some organizations who have very uh, uh, wide outreach, like banks, post offices. They are even approaching the people in the villages, remote villages. They are making them aware. They are conducting various activities to let them understand what are the ill effects of the corruption. We are focusing on school students also, since you are in education sector. You will be agreeing that the children are future of our country. If the values are actually inculcated in them, then certainly we will have better future. So everybody has to participate, and this increase in participation, we are terming it as participative vigilance. Some 2-3 years ago, Commission also advised NCERT, CBSE, UGC, and all even I request NIOS also. I don't know whether that later came to you also, to include at least one chapter in your curriculum on ethics and values. Maybe in our childhood we read some Naitik Shiksha or so. So it is like that only, and students should be able to understand what are the effects of corruption and how to tackle these issues. So if it is possible, sir, I request you to at least include one chapter, so that students are also aware. And what are the anti-corruption agency, they should be able to understand. They should know, so that they are equipped from their childhood. So all these activities are aimed at reducing corruption in the society. And one now what are the areas which are very prone to corruption? I'll say very important area is procurement or contracts, procurement of goods and services. And the major mistakes or misdeeds are seen in procurement, like not inviting open tender where it is actually required as per rules, or by splitting up the quantity. Like if you purchase, let's say, furniture for your organization costing 50 lakh rupees, by splitting it in 5 pieces, and every time you are calling limited tender or sealed quotation for 10 lakh rupees, you are saying that no, it is within my power, so it is fine, but it is wrong. Because these are like furniture or any such routine type of procurement, you can very well assess your annual requirement, and one tender can be floated annually to meet your requirement. And there is no need to split the quantity. And once the quantity is more, then it is common sense that you will have advantage of more competitive rates. So you will have that advantage of achieving better rates. But that is done sometimes for your own malified intent. And other maybe, and that even if you are floating tender, open tender, people are playing with the eligibility conditions by keeping some vague eligibility conditions, and again that I remember that monopoly and discretion. How, for example, you keep a condition in your open tender that the bidders should be financially sound. Now, very easy to manipulate with this word, financially sound. Financially sound, what does it mean? For you, it may be 20 lakh turnover is financially sound. For me, it may be 1 crore. For someone else, it may be 5 crores. Then how will you decide? You will apply then your discretion. and which will invite complaint. And you will not be able to defend yourself, because I can also interpret it in either way. Though you might have acted with very honest intention while evaluating the tender, but you will not be able to satisfy any investigative agency, because when you are interpreting it in other terms, in other words, I am interpreting otherwise. So it is better always to keep your conditions very clear. Like you specified the turnover, like the bidders would have turnover of 20 lakh rupees during, let's say, like sometimes during the last 3 years. But during last 3 years, for each year, or it is cumulative, that should also be clearly specified. So you keep it very, you read it as layman, and anybody who is not connected, if he is understanding, then certainly your conditions are very clear. Similarly in naval, because as per me, the thumb rule for any open tender, any tender, is very clear eligibility conditions and very clear evaluation criteria. You are evaluating the bids, your criteria should be very crisp, very clear. Like if you are purchasing 10 items and all 10 items are so interconnected that from one bidder you can purchase all those items. There is only a similar source, only one source can supply all these items. Like for example, for table and chair, you can purchase from same agency. So then in such cases you can evaluate the bid on the basis of whole package. But certain items which are not interconnected, like once you are purchasing furniture, other one is some lab equipment, and certainly the sources will be different, then you can evaluate them individually. And individual package also can be made. But people are making, here also people are making either mistake or with their malafide intent, like they keep a clause that we reserve the right to evaluate the tender as per package or as per individual item. You can reserve the right, but who has given you that right? This is important, because all we exercise our right, and that is actually coming from Constitution of India, and everyone is governed by Constitution of India. Even our honorable president, who is Mahamahim, first citizen of country, is not having that discretion that he reserves the right for himself, and he can exercise the right in either way. No. So you cannot, because we are very small people, we are very small servants, and the president is not, who is vested all the powers, he is not empowered, then how can you be empowered? So you reserve the right, but the right has to be exercised in very objective manner. So it is better to always keep clear conditions. One more flaw I have seen, like distribution of the quantity. Like if you are purchasing any item in huge quantity, and one source may not be able to supply whole quantity, then you have to distribute it among your 2, 3, 4, 5 bidders, whatever. So again, one clause is kept that we reserve the right to award the tender to only one bidder, or to 2 bidder, or 3 bidders. But how can you do so? Suppose you do it. Okay, you now you have decided to distribute it between 2 bidders. And I am L3 bidder, I will say, okay, you have favored these 2 companies, because they have a right to distribute in 3 bidders also. Why you have not distributed among 3 bidders? So it is better to always specify, like I will divide this quantity among 2 bidders, among 3 bidders, or between 2 bidders, in the ratio also. In the ratio of, like in case of 2 bidders, generally it is 70-30. In case of 3 bidders, 50-30-20. You specify it, or sometimes it can be specified in the inverse ratio of their quoted price. As you quote higher, you will get less quantity. So such type of mistakes should not be made. Then nobody will be able to challenge your decision, and even if challenged, you will be able to justify it in very effective manner. Other way, like you are also conducting examinations. Like last year, there was paper leakage in in examination paper leakage of CBSE. It cannot be, paper cannot be leaked without involvement of any insider. Though in that case, even police has not they have not found anybody from CBSE responsible for that. But that may be a different issue. But it generally happens that somebody of your organization is also playing some important role. So there you have to be, how it can be avoided, you have to have very clear rule so that there is no flaw where somebody can take advantage of that. Especially in transportation of your question papers or custody of question papers and how they are handled, how they are transported, etc. And printing also. Other maybe, of course, it is applicable for to all, like recruitment. In case of recruitments, again, lot of discussion. Like I'll take one example that in one higher educational institution, in one university, they invited applications for a number of posts, like one may be registrar, assistant registrar finance, one may be lecturer for one subject, or so many posts. And there was one closing date, like it may be, let's say, 31st October. Then after closing date, certain applications are received for all the posts. And those applications were actually accepted because Vice Chancellor was empowered to do so. He is saying that I am empowered as per my ordinance of university. So he was empowered to condone the delay, and he has condoned the delay. He exercised that power. That's fine. But what happened later on, that all of them, most of that, almost 90% of them who applied subsequent to closing date, after closing date, they were selected. And it is common sense that it cannot be a coincidence. It was pre-planned, and the applications were just invited as an IBOS. He was already having in mind that whom to select. Such type of things should be avoided. There should not be any doubt. Always transparency should be maintained. If you are having power to condone the delay, exercise that power. Record the reasons why you are allowing. If there are very few applications are received, then of course you can allow some more applications to have better competition. But it should not be aimed to select someone, some particular person. And it can happen in so many ways, in recruitment also, and selection, everything. You may also be entering into various contracts. You may be selecting your study centers. So there should be transparency in all these processes. I hope I only want to convey this message, that the fairness and transparency and accountability should be your keywords, and they should be in your behavior. And integrity, certainly, coming to my theme, integrity is certainly an important tool to discourage corruption. And what integrity, like corruption, I think integrity can also not be defined in clear terms. In a nutshell, it can be said that integrity is adherence to moral and ethical principles. It is the result of strong ethics, and it is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. And for that purpose, we need not to make a lot of efforts. Actually, it is expected from all of us, not only as public servant, but as citizen of the country, as non-common human being, because it makes us different from, let's say, animals. And it is what we generally do. If I talked about making complaints and pinpointing faults. That means what I am thinking that I am right, everybody is wrong. But integrity is such a thing that it encourages you to look inside. It encourages you to introspect yourself, that okay, don't care about others' behavior. At least think about your behavior, about your conduct. like, because corruption is two-way process, it is not one-way process. And keeping this in view, latest amendment, last year amendment was also made in Prevention of Corruption Act. So now bribe giver and bribe taker both are equally responsible. So just how it can be tackled, you have to, if you act with honesty, if you act with integrity, you will not be able to pay bribe, because your ethics will not allow. Then the chain is broken. If the chain is broken, then there will not be any corruption. But then what we have to then do, actually we have to sacrifice certain something, like our own personal goals, our own personal benefits, because we are agreeing to pay bribe just only to have some advantage for ourselves. But if you even compromise on those issues, those personal gains, then you are actually doing great service to the nation, to the society. Because then certainly the person who is having the rightful, having the right on that thing, he will get. So you are always expected to break that chain, and always keep your mutual interest of all of us on priority, and sacrifice your own personal goals. For that purpose, you all might have taken a pledge also. Every year we take the pledge, which also one sentence read that I'll never offer the bribe or take the bribe. So main purpose is to break that chain. So if this pledge is taken in real letter and spirit, it will make great contribution towards cleaning our system. So let us not make this pledge or this observance of Vigilance Awareness Week as a formality, as a rasmadai, but rather make it part of our life, and we can rest assured that it will make our country, our society a better place to live than it is today. It will be better tomorrow than it is today. So I'll request all of you, I'll appeal and I'll convey this message of Commission that to make the integrity the way of life. Thank you very much.
बहुत ही बहुमूल्य जानकारी सर ने हमें दी, और हम पूरा प्रयास करेंगे कि जो भी सुझाव उन्होंने दिए हैं उन्हें भी अपनाएं और अपने कामों में हम पारदर्शिता लाएं, ताकि कार्यालय में नहीं, कहीं भी हम कार्य कर रहे हों, हम पूरी ईमानदारी से अपने कार्यों को पूरा कर सकें। मैं अध्यक्ष महोदय से निवेदन करूंगी कि इस अवसर पर वे हमारा मार्गदर्शन करें।
प्लीज। आज के इस कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि मुकेश कुमार जी, मेरे सहयोगी अंजनी जी, बहल जी, विजय, वेंकट और राजीव हैं नहीं, उनको भी, और सारे सहयोगी। आमतौर पर मैं लंबा अभिभाषण करता हूं, लेकिन आज वो काम मुकेश जी कर चुके हैं, तो मैं आपके पेशेंस का टेस्ट नहीं करूंगा। लेकिन ये विषय और ये काम मेरे दिल के बहुत करीब है। मैं इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय में सतर्कता अधिकारी रहा था, और मुकेश जी ने भी याद दिलाया और मैंने भी याद दिलाया कि डरने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। मैंने अपने ऊपर के अधिकारियों को सज़ा दिलवाई थी, क्योंकि मैं मुख्य सतर्कता अधिकारी था। मुख्य सतर्कता अधिकारी कुछ मायनों में संस्था के सीईओ के ऊपर होता है। मेरे अनुशंसा पर निश्चित तौर पर विजय कुमार जी विजिलेंस ऑफिसर बने हैं, लेकिन उनको पहले ही दिन हमने ये कहा था कि आज के बाद आप हमसे मुक्त हैं। मेरे खिलाफ भी कोई अगर शिकायत आए, बिल्कुल ईमानदारी से उस पर जांच करिएगा। हम सबको अपने आप पर इतना भरोसा होना चाहिए कि क्या हमने ऐसा कुछ किया है क्या। और कई परिभाषाएं दी गई, अंजनी जी ने कहा, हरिश्चंद्र का भी नाम लिया, मुकेश जी ने भी कहा, महाभारत की चर्चा आई। 2 इंसिडेंट्स मैं बताऊंगा जिस दिन, और ये मैं कई बार आप लोगों से साझा किया हूं, तो ये दोहराऊंगा, फिर भी आपको सुनना पड़ेगा। जिस दिन मुझे ये दायित्व दिया गया था और अखबार में आया कि मेरी नियुक्ति अध्यक्ष के तौर पर हुई है, तो मेरे एक बड़े करीब के दोस्त ने फ़ोन किया, अरे ये तो क्या हुआ? तो कहा क्या 5 साल में 5-10 करोड़ तो बन ही जाएगा तुम्हारा। वो मेरे बड़े अच्छे मित्र हैं। हमने कहा तुम तो हमको 20-25 साल से जानते हो, तुमको लगता है कि ऐसा है? तो कहा ये ले क्यों लिए, ये तो काल कोठरी है। और अभी पिछले महीने मैं जम्मू गया था, तो जिस गेस्ट हाउस में गया उसने कहा सर आपका कार्ड चाहिए, आपकी आइडेंटिटी के लिए उसका फोटो लेना पड़ेगा। तो मैंने कार्ड दिया, वो लेके गया, लौट के आया तो पूछता है सर ये जो संस्था थी, ये 10वीं 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट जहां से बनता था आप उसी में हैं? हमने कहा कि उसमें, लेकिन ये बताओ बन जाएगा, एक आध बनवा दोगे? कहा नहीं सर बन जाता था, अब बन नहीं पा रहा है। मैं बारी बारी से एक बात कहता हूं कि जब आप जाएं और बिस्तर पर लेटें और हम सब भगवान को याद करके सोते हैं, और अगर आप कह सकें कि हाँ हमने ईमानदारी से काम किया है, वो व्यक्ति आज ये नहीं कह रहा होगा कि एक बेईमान से मुलाकात हुई, तो आप बिल्कुल ईमानदार हैं। यू जस्ट हैव टू टेल योर सेल्फ आई एम ऑनेस्ट। यू जस्ट हैव टू टेल योर सेल्फ दैट आई एम ऑनेस्ट एंड वर्क अकॉर्डिंगली। फिर किसी से डरने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। और दूसरी जो बात बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, एट द टॉप यू आर ऑलवेज अलोन। जब मैं अध्यक्ष हूं तो मैं बिल्कुल अकेला हूं। आप सब मेरे साथी भी हैं और सब मेरे दुश्मन भी हैं। साथी इसलिए हैं क्योंकि आप सबके सहयोग से ही मैं कुछ कर पाऊंगा, और दुश्मन इसलिए हैं क्योंकि हर किसी को कुछ चाहिए, जब मैं नहीं दूंगा तो वो बेईमानी होगी, और तभी आप कहेंगे कि नहीं सर ये तो बेईमानी है। उस दिन तक बेईमानी नजर नहीं आएगी तो मुझे डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। इसलिए मैं जोर जोर से हर बार कहता हूं, किसी भी रीजनल डायरेक्टर को, कभी भी वेंकट जी को, कभी भी दारूमन को हमने एक भी एग्जाम सेंटर बनाने के लिए नहीं कहा था और नहीं कहता हूं। इतने सारे मंत्रियों को झेलता कौन है? आज भी 4 रेफरेंस आया है, अंजनी जी देख के वो फाइल हमको भेजे हैं। 4 मंत्रियों ने परीक्षा केंद्र बदलने के लिए फाइनली चिट्ठी लिखी मंत्री जी को, क्योंकि मैं बात करने से मना किया। मैं कहा नहीं हो पाएगा, हम सबको वो करना पड़ेगा। बहुत मुश्किल का काम होता है, बहुत मुश्किल का काम होता है, और इतनी सारी परिभाषाओं की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। हम सबको अपना अपना दायित्व तो समझना चाहिए और सोबर रहना चाहिए। मैं अध्यक्ष हूं, इसलिए आप सलाम करेंगे तो कुछ मिलेगा, आप 1000 बार सलाम करेंगे नहीं मिलेगा। मैं जब चेयरमैन बना था, मैं सोच के आया था मैं अपने ऑफिस के अधिकारियों को, वहाँ जो टीम है उसको बदलूंगा। 4 साल में उदय तक नहीं बदला है। तो मैं प्रिया को हमेशा कहता हूँ, नज़र रखना, कोई गलती हो जाए तो बता देना। यही सबसे बड़ी सीवीओ है मेरे ऑफिस की और मेरी। मैं बारी बारी से पूछता हूँ, कोई ऐसी फाइल तो नहीं निकल गई जिसमें कोई ऑब्जेक्शन हो सकता है? ईमानदारी से बताओ, किसी को भी ये फाइल पढ़ाओ। जब आरटीआई की मीटिंग हुई थी, मैंने वहां यही कहा था, जब निर्णय लो ये सोचो अपने आप से कि कल को एक आरटीआई आएगा तो मैं क्या जवाब दूंगा। फिर डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। मेरे रिकमेंडेशंस में, मेरे ऑब्जर्वेशन में, मेरे ऑर्डर्स में कॉन्ट्रडिक्शंस हो सकते हैं। मुझे पता है उस लेडी की क्या परेशानी है, क्योंकि मैं ह्यूमन बीइंग हूं। और जैसा कहा अभी मुकेश जी ने, आई derive my power from the MOA। वो कहता है अध्यक्ष will be the opinion leader of an IOS। I do that। ये भी आके मिलती है, ये भी आके मिलते हैं और कहते हैं मेरी ये परेशानी है। मैं इनके केस में एक निर्णय लेता हूं, इनके केस में दूसरा निर्णय लेता हूं, क्योंकि ये मुझे पावर दिया गया है। वो करप्शन नहीं है, मैं मानता हूं। क्योंकि आप दोनों में से कोई मेरे नहीं है। मैंने पहले भी ये कहा है, 28 अप्रैल 2020 के बाद शायद कोई भी सलाम ना करे, तो मैं तैयार हूं उसके लिए। जितने सारे गुड मॉर्निंग मैसेजेस आ रहे हैं व्हाट्सएप पर, वो आना बंद हो जाएंगे। ये 60 साल की उम्र में यही सीख है। इससे बड़ा और विजिलेंस क्या होना है। मैं आप सबसे ये आग्रह करता हूं, सफाई रखने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि आप जब बाहर जाते हैं और कहते हैं कि हम NIOS में काम करते हैं, कैसा अनुभव होता है। ये व्यक्ति सामने वाला क्या सोचेगा, NIOS। मैं हर प्लेटफॉर्म से कहता हूं और लिखता हूं और बोला भी हूं, NCT एक करप्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का इमेज रखती है। ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, सब कह रहे हैं। हमारे बारे में लोग क्या बोल रहे होंगे, ये सब आपके बारे में भी होगा। मैं आज अध्यक्ष हूं, कल नहीं रहूंगा, लेकिन आप लंबे समय तक काम करेंगे, तो ये छवि आपको बनाने की जरूरत है। इसलिए नहीं कि हमको कोई फायदा मिलना है, हमको नहीं मिल रहा है इसलिए करप्शन हो गया, नहीं, ऐसा नहीं करो, ऐसा नहीं। We are all human beings. We have human considerations. And sometimes decisions are taken on human grounds. You should abide by it. पिछले साल कागज खरीदने में बहुत लेट हुआ। आपने प्रोक्योरमेंट की बात की, कागज खरीदने में बड़ा लेट हुआ। एक बार, दो बार, कमल इज विटनेस, उप्रेती एंड ऑल कमिटी मेंबर्स, करोड़ों का कागज खरीदा गया। 10% तो चेयरमैन का बनता ही है। 30 करोड़ का कागज खरीदा, कहीं भी बाहर कहिए 30 करोड़ का कागज NIOS ने खरीदा, चेयरमैन कितना लिया होगा। तब जब वो फाइल हाथ में आता है तो बताइए कि कितना हाथ पांव फूलेगा, कितना परेशानी होगी कि इस पर साइन करूं कि ना करूं। कई कई बार लौटा। ये बड़ा दुधारी तलवार है। मटेरियल लेट हुआ, क्वेश्चन हम पर आया, आप कैसे चेयरमैन हैं, मटेरियल नहीं मिला बच्चों को, आप क्या करेंगे। आप जल्दीबाजी में अगर कहे कोई बात नहीं, थोड़ा सा सिस्टम को फ्लाउट करो, थोड़ा सा कुछ, ताकि बच्चों को मटेरियल समय पर जाए, आप फंस जाते हैं। डिले हो, आप फंस जाते हैं। मैंने कहा डिले होने दो। साफ रहना उतना ही जरूरी है जितना साफ दिखना जरूरी है। बहुत दिनों तक डिले हुआ, क्यों कमल, लेकिन कागज साफ सुथरा खरीदा गया। मैं आप सबों से ये आग्रह करूंगा, विजिलेंस बहुत जरूरी है। और फिर मैं दोहराऊंगा, आज ही हमने पहले कहा था, आज हमने वो कागज अप्रूव किया है। हर ऑफिस में CVO का नाम लगेगा कि आपको की अगर परेशानी है, डायरेक्टली CVO से आप कांटेक्ट करिए, चेयरमैन के थ्रू जाने की जरूरत नहीं है। इन many cases the CVO will be the ultimate authority and I respect that and I will abide by it. तो आप कहीं भी करप्शन देखते हैं तो दीजिए CVO को, और वो बिना हमसे पूछे इंक्वायरी करेंगे। जैसे हमने मध्य प्रदेश के केस में CBI इंक्वायरी कराया बिना किसी को संस्था में पता किए। 2 लोग जेल में हैं और हमको अब CBI से बात हुई है, कुछ लोग और अरेस्ट होने वाले हैं। किस पर शिकंजा कस रहा है वो नाम हमको पता है। अब थोड़ी बदनामी तो होगी, क्योंकि जब CBI इंक्वायरी शुरू हुई तो हमको फोन आया मेरे मित्रों का, तुम्हारे खिलाफ इंक्वायरी शुरू हो गई। हमने कहा बिल्कुल मत चिंता करो, मित्र पर भरोसा रखो, ये कंप्लेंट ही मेरा है, ऐसा होता नहीं है। आपको भी लगे आप भी कंप्लेन करिए, लेकिन जैसा इन्होंने कहा एनोनिमस नहीं चलेगा। हम नाम तो नहीं बताएंगे लेकिन आप इंक्वायरी करिए, ये नहीं चलेगा। हिम्मत करना होगा। मैंने मुकेश जी को आज याद दिलाया एक बड़े भारी केस का, जिसमें कि हम इंक्वायरी किए थे और बड़े सारे बड़े लोग आहत हुए। हिम्मत करके मैं खड़ा हुआ था, लड़ा था। कोई गड़बड़ी है बिल्कुल खड़ा होना चाहिए, क्योंकि ये संस्था के हित में है और ये देश के हित में है। विजय जी से एक मेरा आग्रह रहेगा, ऐसा केवल सतर्कता सप्ताह के लिए मत रुकिए। आज मुकेश जी ने जो नीति कृति बताया, जो डिटेलिंग किया है, वो लोगों को जानना चाहिए। कई बार कंप्लेंट बेकार जाता है क्योंकि आप ठीक से लिख नहीं पाते हैं, उसकी ट्रेनिंग होनी चाहिए। वो सूझ डेवलप होना चाहिए संस्था में कि है क्या विजिलेंस, है क्या करप्शन, मेरी पदोन्नति नहीं हो रही है इसलिए ये करप्शन है, ये नहीं है करप्शन। ये काउंसलिंग लगातार कराइए, मुकेश जी को एक बार बुलाइए, छोटे ग्रुप्स में बैठाइए ताकि सब लोग समझ सकें कि विजिलेंस क्या है और कैसे इसका इस्तेमाल होना चाहिए और कब ये दुरुपयोग के श्रेणी में आता है। एनोनिमस सिडोनिम्स नहीं चलेगा। किसी भी अधिकारी का अगर प्रमोशन होना है उसके 6 महीने पहले का कंप्लेंट नहीं लिया जाएगा। क्यों मुकेश जी? इसलिए कोई अगर होने वाला है प्रमोशन और लगा दिए एक उसके खिलाफ, ये नहीं चलेगा। तैयारी करो, 7 महीने पहले करना। तो आप सब सीखे, जाने, और इसलिए कि संस्था को आगे ले जाना है, ट्रांसपेरेंसी लानी है ताकि हम एक अच्छी संस्था के तौर पर उभरें। जो हम उभरे हैं बिल्कुल निस्संदेह, और आगे भी और अच्छा बने। ये बड़ी संस्था है, चर्चा में है। हमारा डीएलएड की सर्टिफिकेट पर कुछ प्रश्न चिन्ह उठाए गए हैं, लेकिन मेरा भरोसा है कि वो हम बिल्कुल फ्लाइंग कलर्स के साथ निकलेंगे और हमारे डिप्लोमा पर जो क्वेश्चंस उठाए जा रहे हैं वो लोग जो उठा रहे हैं वो पिछड़ेंगे। तो आप सबों को पुनः एक बार सतर्कता दिवस की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं, और संदेश ये साफ रहना है ताकि जब बिस्तर पर जाएं रात को तो भगवान से ये कह सकें कि हमने कोई बेईमानी नहीं की है। अगर हमने ऐसे निर्णय भी लिए हैं तो वो जनहित में, वो राष्ट्रहित में, वो भगवान की सेवा के लिए लिया है। आप सबों का बहुत बहुत आभार, खास करके मुकेश जी का आभार कि वो आए और हम लोगों से बहुत सारी चीज़ें शेयर किए। नमस्कार।
आज की ये विशेष शाम आपको हमेशा याद रहेगी। इस प्रांगण में हमेशा हम आप सब बहुत सारी बातें सुने हैं, लेकिन आज एक बहुत ही उपयोगी, जो आपको हमको जीवन में हमेशा आगे बढ़ाएगी, उसके लिए आज बहुत सारी बातें हम लोगों ने जानी। आप जब भी यहाँ से प्रस्थान करेंगे, रास्ते भर घर पे इसकी चर्चा ज़रूर करेंगे। ये कोई सामान्य शाम नहीं है। कहीं पर मैंने पढ़ा था, एक कवि दुष्यंत कुमार जो नहीं रहे इस दुनिया में, कि दोस्तों आजकल मंच पे सुविधाएं नहीं हैं, नेपथ्य में काफ़ी संभावनाएं हैं। जो उम्र हम लोग की थी तो हम लोगों ने उसको कविता के रूप में लिया था, एक नौजवान शायर के रूप में हम उनको जानते थे। लेकिन आज सीबीसी से जो महोदय पधारे हैं, जब जब इतनी सारी बातें और उसके बाद अध्यक्ष महोदय का जो भाषण होता है, उसमें जिस मजबूती से वो अपनी बात रखते हैं, उन सबों को अगर तारतम्य करें तो ये बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हम लोगों को सारी चीज़ों को याद रखना है। बहुत सारे ऐसे मंदिर हैं जहाँ पर ये लिखा न हो कि यहाँ पर जूते के साथ प्रवेश वर्जित है, तो हम जूते के साथ प्रवेश कर जाएं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता। एक सामान्य एक सोच होनी चाहिए सबों के कि मुझे क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है। इसलिए कि हर घर में आपके साथ एक दूसरी पीढ़ी है, उसे भी आप तैयार कर रहे हैं। भाषण में उन्होंने ये भी बात कही कि हमारे ऊपर बहुत दायित्व है, ये एक सामान्य कार्यालय नहीं है, यहाँ खरीदने बेचने का काम नहीं होता है। हम लोग इस पीढ़ी का नवनिर्माण कर रहे हैं जो इस देश का मुख्य आधार होगा। इस सोच के साथ हम लोग की जिम्मेदारियां और बढ़ जाती हैं। ये प्रांगण हमेशा हर विषयों पर बातचीत करने के लिए बहुत ही उपयोगी स्थल है, जहाँ कि मिनटों में आप आ जाते हैं और मिनटों में यहाँ से आप अपने कमरे में जाकर काम कर सकते हैं। लेकिन आज ये कहना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि ये बातें बहुत सारगर्भित है, समझने, सुनने, और आपको प्रवेश द्वार मिला है कि आप जाकर सारी चीज़ों को, फाइलों को पुनः पढ़ें। जैसा अध्यक्ष महोदय ने कहा कि लिखते समय आप इस पर महसूस करें कि इसको कोई तीसरा भी कोई देखेगा। शाम हो चुकी है, आप लोगों को बहुत दूर जाना है। मैं सबसे पहले हमारे मुख्य अतिथि का आभार प्रकट करता हूँ कि उन्होंने सीबीसी जैसी संस्था में काम करने का अनुभव और आपके साथ जो उसने पारदर्शिता की जो बातें कही, वो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। मैं उनसे इस मौके पर यह भी अनुरोध करूंगा कि कभी वो एक पूरा दिन हम सबके बीच गुजारें और यहाँ पर जैसा अध्यक्ष महोदय ने कहा है कि एक कार्यशाला हो जिसमें हम सब उनसे फेस टू फेस मोड में जान सकें कि हम कैसे आगे बढ़ें, जिसमें कि हमारे पास पूरी पारदर्शिता के साथ हम काम कर पाएँ। इस मौके पर अध्यक्ष महोदय ने जब निर्णय लिया होगा और निदेशक ये ट्रिपल ने जो इसको आयोजन किया, और ये ऐसी कड़ी हो गई है कि इसे हमें और आगे ले जाना है। ये सप्ताह इससे भी कई परिणाम निकलेंगे, कई ऐसे कार्यक्रम इसके साथ जुड़ेंगे, इससे मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है। इस मौके पर सचिव महोदय और जितने निदेशक महोदय यहाँ उपस्थित हैं, इन सबों का मैं आभार प्रकट करता हूँ कि आपने एक नई ऊर्जा दी है, एक सोचने का एक नया मंत्र दिया है कि हम इस पर काम करें और खरे उतरें। हमारे देश में जितने भी क्षेत्रीय कार्यालय हैं, वो सब भी हम लोगों को एक आशा भरी नज़रों से देखते हैं। अगर हिमालय स्वच्छ होगा तो गंगा में पानी भी साफ उतरेगा, इसलिए हम लोग का दायित्व और ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है। इसी उम्मीद के साथ कि हम सब मिलते रहें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।